Hello and welcome to this, my new video on the new Hearthstone cards released by Blizzard for the upcoming adventure One Night in Karazhan. First card that we will look at is Raving Grimoire, or as some people are saying on Reddit, Babbling Book. I'm not sure if the initial card art was unfinished or if it was a translation error from the stream, but basically this card is a 1-mana 1/1 minion that summons, well, doesn't summon it, adds a random mage spell to your hand. So what this means is that this is essentially a pseudo-cycle card, akin to Novice Engineer. This means that it's really good in a top-decking scenario, as it allows you to quickly find something else of greater power. However, the fact that it's limited to spells means that the power level is probably lower than it would be if Novice Engineer, as Novice Engineer has a chance at cycling into a minion. And minions are typically of greater value than spells, as they can hit things multiple times and get repeated value that way. So what that means for Raving Grimoire or Babbling Book is that it's a unreliable source of pseudo card draw. And if we look at the mage spells, there's actually quite a few that you would like to get in a kind of top-decking scenario, like Flame Strike. Obviously all the AoEs are fantastic. Any of the transform effects you're probably quite happy to get, such as Polymorph or Polymorph Boar, and even the secrets are pretty solid. Not to mention all the burn that would allow you to just kill a minion or deal more damage to your opponent's face and finish the game that way. Basically in Mage, obviously the theme of it being Mage and therefore very spell orientated, the Mage spells are very powerful on average. There are very few that you would be very disappointed to see. Arcane Explosion, Arcane Missiles, Arcane Blast. Basically any spell with Arcane in the name you probably don't want to be seeing, but any other one you're quite happy to get, as mage spells, as mentioned, are quite good on average. So that's really all I think about this card, to be honest. It's probably going to see experimentation simply because effects that do card draw are always powerful, especially when they're as cheap as 1 mana. And sure, you can't control what mage spell you're going to draw into, but the effect is just really powerful, to be honest. And for that reason, I'm thinking that Freeze Mage might experiment with it a bit. I don't think this card quite fits Tempo Mage, as it's just a bit too weak of a play on curve, but even so, all the spell synergy within Tempo Mage itself could even support the weak body and really utilize the effect to make it a strong card. So final thoughts on this card: it's a bit unreliable, but even so, the effect is powerful enough to probably warrant some reasonable experimentation with. Onto Murrows. This is a 3-mana legendary neutral card that has the stats 1/1 with stealth, with the effect that at the end of your turn you summon a 1/1 steward. And these stewards have no extra effect, they're just plain 1/1 tokens. So this type of token generation is akin to Imp Master, a card that has seen virtually no play in Hearthstone ever, even in token decks. I believe old forms of Token Druid used to run it, but even then, it's not that fantastic of a card, and the same can be said of Murrows, to be honest. Basically, in the current metagame, Warrior is just running rampant, and therefore, in most games, you're going to see at least one Ghoul, Ravaging Ghoul. And even if you don't face against Warrior, you can see similar effects in Demon Wrath from Warlock, Arcane Missiles and Flamewaker from Mage, Consecration from Paladin. The list truly does go on. And that makes this card just awful. Like, really bad. The only way I can see this card being useful at the moment is if you played it turn 3, it doesn't get killed, and then you buff it somehow to ensure that it doesn't get killed by another 1 mana kind of whirlwind type effect. So this could be used in Paladin, where you'd go turn 3 Murrows into turn 4 Blessing of Might on a guaranteed minion. There's also the synergy with Steward of Darkshire, since Murrows has 1 health, but even with this synergy with buffs, I don't see this being used too much. It's just too weak for play on turn 3 for the type of deck that wants to be buffing things. So in like a tempo-y aggressive Paladin, you're not going to want to essentially waste your turn 3 playing this card when you could play something that has much more immediate impact. Honestly, I think the community has got it right from what I've been seeing on the comments on Reddit. It's just not that great of a card. I'll be glad to be proven wrong, but I don't think it's that powerful, to be honest. On to the next card, we've got Bookworm. This is a 6 mana 3/6 body dragon, as you would expect, and it has the effect, if you're holding a dragon, destroy a minion with 3 or less attack. What this means is that essentially it's combining a 3/6 body for 4 mana, which is good, with the exact same effect of Shadowword Pain from Priest, which is obviously worth 2 mana, thus making it a perfectly balanced 6 mana minion. However, perfectly balanced never makes a great card in Hearthstone. And the issue is that on turns 5, 6, 7, basically all the turns around this card where you're likely to play it, most minions have typically 4 or more attack, and so all of the early game minions that would be impacted by this card have usually been traded in or have been killed off by this point in the game. Like turn 6 is quite late. And if we compare it to its closest counterpart, which is, I believe, Blackwing Corruptor, which does 3 damage if you're holding a dragon instead, it's really easy to see how much better having a figure on the damage is as compared to a conditional destroy effect, as Bookworm has. So Bookworm is only good against 3 attack minions or less, and Blackwing Corruptor is useful against anything, simply because 3 damage can be combined with other sources of damage, either your minions or a weapon or a spell to kill a bigger minion. And thus this composite form of damage is just much more flexible. For this reason, I would say that Bookworm is quite a weak card. It just doesn't compare well with the current market of the dragon kind of style of deck. On to the next card, we've got Protect the King, which is a warrior card, spell, 3 mana, for every enemy minion, summon a 1/1 with Taunt. So this can be most closely compared to Unleash the Hounds, where instead of you getting 1/1 Hounds with Charge, you get a much more defensive 1/1 with Taunt. Obviously, it's pushing the Taunt style of warrior. Quite a cool combo if this card would be turn 5, the enemy has quite a big board, you play Protect the King, summon a bunch of 1/1s with Taunt, and then bolster on top of it, making a bunch of 3/3s with Taunt, which is really quite powerful, to be honest. If you compare it to Muster for Battle with Quartermaster kind of turn 8. You know, this is a powerful spell, it really is. Obviously it scales with how board-centric your opponent is playing, and so some games it'll just be useless because your opponent is playing no minions, or you're playing against a freeze mage. But yeah, I really like this card. It's just an interesting mid-range card. And whilst at the moment Warrior is kind of getting a lot of hate simply because it's just so popular on ladder and so powerful, I think this card is in the right direction for Warrior's kind of class design. It's pushing more mid-range, it's sort of giving Warrior an alternative way to play the mid-range game, as opposed to relying on dragon synergies or just really strong individual minions. And yeah, so that's no bad thing. I could easily see myself trying out this card with Bolster, and I don't think I ever expected Bolster to see serious play, so that's definitely a good thing. This plus Bolster plus King's Defender, maybe Fierce Monkey, Blood of Brave, even Obsidian Destroyer or Hogger. Yeah, cool card. I like it. I like it a lot. So on to the next card. This is Karazhan. It's a 5 mana Warlock spell which summons a 1/1, a 2/2, and a 3/3. There are 2 cards you can compare this to really easily. First off, Force of Nature for Druid. After its nerf, it became a 5 mana spell which summoned 3/2/2s. The stat distribution is different for each of the tokens, but it's basically the same stats. It's a 6/6 split up. As well as Silverhand Knight, which is a 4/4 body and a 2/2 body. What is a shared attribute of these above mentioned cards, however, is that neither of them are particularly amazing or groundbreaking. Even in the current token Yogg Druid builds, you don't see Force of Nature see play, and that's really telling as to the power level of this card. On paper, paying 5 mana for 6/6 stats is pretty solid, but it turns out that dealing with small minions at that point in the game is just too easy. and your opponent can just value trade their big minions into your small tokens, and effectively lose very little in exchange for dealing with your token generation. I will say that it's better than Forbidden Ritual on curve. If you play this turn 5, it's a better play than Forbidden Ritual. But Forbidden Ritual has the advantage of being much more flexible, as well as having increased synergy with cards such as Knife Juggler and Darkshire Councilman, and others such as Direwolf Alpha. And so, I don't think this card is particularly great. However, it could see play. The fact that Warrior is all over the ladder at the moment, if that remains the case after this adventure releases, you could see this card being played over Forbidden Ritual simply because the tokens don't just get destroyed utterly by a Ravaging Ghoul. But other than that, it's a very balanced card again. Similar to Bookworm, it's balanced but not amazing. So on to the last card I will be covering in this video, Prince Malkazar. Now this is a cool card. It's a neutral legendary, demon tag, 5 mana 5/6 body, so good stats to start with, and at the start of the game it shuffles 5 random legendaries into your deck. So this is an effect that we actually haven't seen yet, I don't think, in Hearthstone. It basically changes the rules of Hearthstone from the get-go, and what this means for you playing this card is that your draw consistency will go down. You can't expect to be drawing into your answers as often, but your deck value will go up, as you will have, as you would expect, 5 more legendaries in your deck than you otherwise would have. Now, other notes about this card which are quite important are that it obeys deck construction rules, and so if you already have, say, Grimoire Hellscream in your deck, it will not give you another Hellscream. Now, what that means is that this card can be manipulated to some degree. You could actually run all the bad legendaries in order to prevent this card from giving you bad legendaries. I do not think that that's a good idea, as this card already dilutes your deck in terms of draw consistency. Adding further legendaries to your deck that you wouldn't really want to run if you weren't running this card further decreases the power of your average draw. You want to be drawing into answers, spells, board clears, and removal often, and playing bad legendaries in order to improve the power level of Malkazar just weakens your deck to a point where, yeah, you probably just shouldn't do it. But regardless, this is a super cool card. I really like the design. It's got a great body. It's another neutral demon, which doesn't really impact anything, since only Warlock has any influence over the demon tag. But yeah, it's just a really powerful card in terms of its density. Like, it does a really powerful thing, a very unique effect, and for that reason, a deck out there might be made where this card is just broken in. But for most other decks, I will say that this card is probably bad in. If you're looking to add value to your deck, Elise Starseeker is just the way to go, as Elise Starseeker can be much more controlled as compared to this. Like, this gives you no chance to choose when you want your legendaries, as you're just going to be drawing into them naturally. Whereas Elise Starseeker allows you to wait on playing the Golden Monkey for when the ideal time is, basically. So when your opponent's out of removal, you play the Golden Monkey and start playing legendaries that they just can't deal with. Whereas this card, you'll be, okay, worst case scenario, turn 1 you draw into Deathwing or Nefarian. You know, and you can't do anything with that card, that's just a dead draw. And if you hadn't played Prince Malkazar in your deck, you maybe would have drawn a 2-drop or a 1-drop, and that would be great. So this card, it's really powerful in its effect, but its effect is only going to be wanted in 1 or 2 decks. I can't at the moment think off the top of my head what kind of a deck would want this, but regardless, I love this card to pieces, and will probably experiment with it quite a bit. It's just super cool. And Prince Malkazar, I don't know much about WoW lore, but I do know that he's meant to be a complete badass. And the card art looks just awesome. I have no idea if it's the official card art, but hey, if this was, I would have no problem with it. So, those are my thoughts on the new releases. I will be keeping up to date with the releases as they come out, up until Karazhan comes out officially. Yeah, I'm still pretty hyped. A lot of these cards that I've reviewed in this video haven't been awe-inspiring, but they've all been interesting cards to talk about. And that's always a good thing. I always do appreciate that. So there we go, I'll see you in the next video. It might be on Karazhan, or it might be on something slightly more specific, such as a certain type of deck that Karazhan is pushing, but yeah, I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for listening and or watching. Ta-ta.